Hi, everybody. There's a story I really wanted to share, and I started writing it out, but it's Friday. I'm kind of exhausted, and so I decided to just record that as a video because honestly, writing out the whole thing is going to be longer than just recording it this way. I think that this is a story that is both hilarious and sad, and I want to share it with people so that they know what's going on. There is a publishing house in Ukraine that it was one of the publishing houses where I tried to publish my own book last year. And this publishing house refused. That was weird to me because honestly, my book is a gift to any publishing house because I refuse to take any money for it. So whatever profit you get for the book, it reverts 100% to the publishing house. I did not want any royalties. I said that from the very beginning. But they refused. I didn't understand that at that time. I was very naive. And earlier this week, this publishing house announced that it's going to hold a presentation for a new book that it's releasing that is called Voices of the BLM, the BLM. And this is extremely relevant in Ukraine right now, just the BLM is, as we know, like hugely important. Not. In times of war in a country with a non-existent black population, obviously, why would anybody want to bring out a very expensively edited book on a movement that is just completely extraneous to Ukraine, utterly irrelevant? There was going to be this really fancy presentation for the book. The so-called author of the book, and she's known in Ukraine as a person who sucks up every grant. There's a word in Ukrainian that was created to refer to these people who suck up, just vacuum up every single ideological grant that is available through the European Union, through the United States, USAID, all of that. The word is grantožerka or grantožer, and that means a grant devourer. And this is used to mock these people who live by promoting all sorts of weird ideologies in Ukraine because they need the money that they can get through these granting agencies. And the author of the book brought, as part of her presentation, a journalist from the United States who is known for his support of the BLM. Until quite recently, he was extremely pro-Russian. He was so pro-Russian that his online handle on social media sites was Russian Star. And he has a master's from a Slavic studies program. If people don't know, the few remaining programs in Slavic studies in North America are completely engulfed in Putin propaganda. They are pro-Putinoid, as you cannot begin to imagine, which is one of the reasons why these programs are not surviving in the United States. There used to be more, but now they're all dying out because who wants to go to a program and get propagandized? And there is absolutely no other value to these programs at all. Of course, the scholars themselves, the academics, they blame anybody except for themselves for the situation. Um, in any case, when it became known that there's going to be a presentation of this book, Voices of the BLM in Ukraine, literally days after the horrific murder of Irina Zarutska in the United States became widely known, the extraordinary tone deafness of bringing this book out right now, creating this fancy presentation, publishing the invites, and telling people that finally in Ukraine we will be able, thanks to this book, we will be able to find out about structural racism, which is honestly it's beyond ludicrous that anybody would talk about structural racism in Ukraine, where this is irrelevant. And I would argue that this is utterly irrelevant in the United States as well, but that's a different issue. A little while ago, I would say that maybe a little over a year ago, I was actually offered an opportunity to apply for federal funding in the United States to prove that the BLM is relevant in other countries, in my case, specifically Hispanic countries. And we can all imagine how I responded to this suggestion. I said that I cannot possibly find evidence that BLM is relevant in other countries because there's no such evidence. You can only manufacture it. I said that the BLM is an American fad that is utterly irrelevant to anybody else in the world, and actually people in other countries, and I actually gave the example of Ukraine. Look at it with a lot of sarcasm and find it to be quite ridiculous. Obviously, no offers were made anymore to me, but I was told back then that, well, if you want funding, and I don't, but I was told if you want funding, this is what federal grants are covering right now. This is the interest. You're either working to prove that the BLM is mega relevant all over the world, or there is no federal funding in the humanities. Hopefully that changed since then, but apparently this particular Ukrainian grant devourer had received that grant or some similar sort of grant. She brought out this book, Voices of the BLM. When people in Ukraine find out that this presentation was being prepared, there was an enormous degree of anger and resentment. You just think about it, it's a country at war. It's a country that where people receive deeply traumatic news all the time. The people are, even though right now is a more hopeful moment in the war, Ukraine is on the counteroffensive, has liberated several villages, is doing really well right now. But still, the war is going on, and just the complete tone deafness of bringing this ludicrous American squabble to Ukraine, which has absolutely nothing whatsoever to do with it. So people started protesting. There was an enormous wave of protest against the presentation of this book. There were letters, emails, phone calls. There was a massive, completely grassroots online campaigns of people saying, no, this is not going to work. And of course, the conservatives in Ukraine, the Ukrainian right wing, were very vocal in these protests. I am in touch with some of the people in the Ukrainian right wing circles for reasons none of us can possibly fathom. But I know that people were shocked and horrified. The publishers immediately responded by following the BLM playbook by calling the people who oppose this presentation in wartime racists, and the usual, we'll know about that. However, the publisher was forced to cancel the presentation. That is very positive. That's a really positive development. The reason why I'm sharing this story is to show how this money for ideological purposes flows. And right now, obviously, things have changed, and that's wonderful. But this money for many, many years has flown from the United States, from the European Union, towards countries that, in reality, have no need for these ideologies, countries that are very conservative in nature. And so when people ask me, but how is it possible that there is this ideology present in Ukraine? Well, it's possible because it was funded very specifically. Starting in 1990, there was an enormous effort to pour vast amounts of money into the Ukrainian cultural space to turn it culturally left-wing. So not left-wing like we were in the USSR. This is a very different left-wing. This is gender theory. This is endlessly stoked racial conflicts. This is all of the cultural leftism that we're seeing right now. The only reason why it did not work in Ukraine is because as I always say, first of all, people have a sense of humor, and both the gender theory and the BLM are infinitely entertaining to people with even a tiny bit of a sense of humor remaining. But also because there is a very deeply conservative vein in Ukraine, and for people to buy into this kind of thing, aside from just very small groups of people, that would be absolutely impossible. So this is what I wanted to share. I'm very happy that I didn't have to write it out, because as much as I love to write, today was not the day for that. Thank you everybody for watching, and have a wonderful weekend.